Ooh, a Patreon review from patron Mega Umi. And he or she wanted me to talk about an anime. Seemingly everyone in these Patreon videos want me to talk about anime apparently. So what anime did this person want me to talk about? Terra Formars. Oh, get it, you little smartass. So what is Terra Formars? Well, Terra Formars originally was a collaboration manga made by Yu Sasuga, the writer of the manga, and Kenichi Tachibana, the illustrator. The manga began its run with Shueisha Young Jump magazine, and later achieved relative success, selling over 13 million copies. And with a successful manga trending, you bet your ass there's gonna be an anime adaptation looming over the horizon. And that's where Linden Films comes in. You know, popular anime studio Linden Films, responsible for such works as Area, Ira. Yeah, I don't even know what the fuck they do either. But apparently they do a lot of co-animation with a lot of other studios, most likely because they're a very young studio, not even existing for even a decade. But we'll get into whether or not they did a good job later. But what is this show about? If I were to make this summarization even shorter, I would say that the plot of Terra Formars is about how Earth basically fucked themselves over. You see, back in the 21st century, we had a really smart sounding idea at the time to try and colonize the planet Mars. Thinking it was a good idea, it didn't sound too bad. I know, it was a good investment for the future. You know, possibly make it habitable, possibly turn it into a really helpful place to produce food, get water, you know, maybe some other materials. It seemed fine. So what they did was they loaded a ship full of cockroaches, some moths, hoping to spread around and make the planet more habitable by having the mold absorb the sunlight, and the mold would eat the dead insects and make the planet eventually sustainable for humans. Not bad, but those little itty bitty cockroaches, they ain't so small anymore. These little itty bitty cockroaches turned into the scariest creature known to man, giant black men. I mean, what am I supposed to infer? Look at this thing. As much as I'd really want to say, it doesn't surprise me these creatures are basically caricatured off of black people. I mean, as much as I love their food and games, I'm still not gonna turn a blind eye to them being a xenophobic country at times.
Hey, fucking cowboy, fucking cowgirl, how the fuck are you doing? So tell me, are you kids on your fucking way home from school or something like that? Fuck, why don't you two buy a fucking hot dog from me, Mr. Kohei?
But after looking it up, these creatures aren't really based off of black people, but actually the first renders of the first cave people, explaining the giant clubs and sort of barbaric nature of these creatures exhuming. This is all just one big misunderstanding, people. Though I will say, the fact that no editor or anything checked this design shows a high level of tone deafness in the Japanese entertainment industry. I mean, here in America, we have that sort of problem here. I mean, concrete, never forget. But typically they end up in the cutting room. It's cool that it wasn't made out of sheer racism, but it's still kind of bad. So these black creatures are absolutely terrifying and completely kicked the shit out of our first crew we sent to Mars. So that's already a concern. These creatures who can destroy us are a good distance away, but they aren't as far as we would like them to be. But maybe if we stand our ground and, you know, just not fuck with Mars, maybe we'll be okay. No! You see, in Terra Formars, there's this big outbreak of this disease that is kind of like cancer. There's no cure, but unlike cancer, there's no real treatment for it either. Once you get it, you're pretty much fucked and just counting your days until you eventually die. So the world is freaking out about this, but we came to a conclusion. Okay, so we don't have any other options. Let's just go to Mars, play exterminator, kick the shit out of these roaches, claim Mars, and find a cure. Not a bad idea, but how do we do that? Well, Earth wasn't just shitting its pants and crying to its mom, they were actually developing some rather interesting technology to combat these bugs. But how do you fight a superpowered bug? They're immune to bullets. I'm assuming they can survive explosions. I don't think nuking it would work. So how do you fight a superpowered bug? With even more bugs! They developed this surgery and medicine to mutate these human users to transform them into these bug hybrids with their own special bug powers. A concept that sounds really fucking dumb saying this aloud, but it ends up being pretty cool in the end. Instead of them just turning into like some boring earth animals like, I don't know, like a fucking lion or tiger, they turn into some cool shit like spiders and beetles. I like that. And when they turn into bugs, some of them have some really cool powers that can go toe to toe with the cockroaches. Emphasis on some of them because some of these characters in the show have like the unfortunate luck of having like the shittiest powers. The biggest flaw with the humans fighting the roaches is one, their medicine does not last forever. It lasts for a while, but eventually it will fade, making the user back to its same strength it originally had. The other flaw in the humans is that they very much underestimate the thinking power of these roaches. These roaches are surprisingly coordinated and more intelligent than their physical appearance lets on. Some are actually pretty stupid, yeah, but the more specialized roaches are more strategic and fuck the humans up in pretty big ways other than just tearing them apart. Like in the second episode, they infiltrated the ship before it landed and did not really fuck with the humans, and maybe killed a couple of them, but they were mostly just going after their medicine, basically crippling them before they can even fight. I really like the setup for this show. It was surprisingly interesting. But what I also really liked about the show is that it doesn't really have a main centralized character. I mean, yeah, it kind of does. It's most likely this guy. But the show follows a multitude of characters from many different backgrounds and different cultures. And I really like that because the conflict is not just one person's problem. It's the fucking world's problem. And the show in its 13 episodes spreads the time pretty evenly, following each team in basically each country, letting you see many different characters and understand why they even embarked on this journey in the first place. Because these people volunteered to get their ass beat. This was not like a mandated thing like a war type draft. Each and every one of the crew members have a reason for being there. Some for questionable and possible selfish reasons, like there's gonna be like some idiot that's trying to say like, I'm gonna get rich by fighting these roaches. But a lot of them are there for actually pretty sympathetic reasons. Like they're like mothers and fathers on this journey trying to find a cure and help pay for the medical bills of their child back on their own planet. It's actually pretty sad. I mean, I'm not gonna say each and every character's backstories were these incredible moving stories, but there were some that did strike a chord with me. And it made when these characters would eventually get fucking destroyed and die, it made their death a little bit more poignant. But guys like Adolf in this series dying was honestly really sad. And he died in the most brutal way possible. Not only is he an actual cuck within the series, he gets pelted with boulders to pretty much he's fucking mush. Oh yeah, these characters do not die like nice anime deaths. They get completely brutalized. And no one truly feels like they're safe in this series, adding some concern to seeing some of these characters knowing that they could get destroyed in like the next episode. I know earlier that I said these roach characters look kind of racist, kind of offensive, kind of dumb, which mind you, they kind of are. There's no way to avoid that when viewing it, but as the opposition and opponent to humanity, they are really fascinating creatures. Like the design is kind of rude, but they are really intimidating. The show does an excellent job at bringing in these creatures and showing how fucking scary they can be. Think about it. One roach can do this. Imagine when you have like 1,000 of them. This show initially only kind of garnered a lot of my interest before being requested because of the gore alone, but I was really surprised how the show handles the mystery and evolution of these bugs, and how much it goes into some things like how the specialized roaches' abilities actually work, like them being these hybrid creatures of other bugs. It was actually pretty cool to learn some facts about certain bug species while watching the show, and I say they really are an imposing force to be reckoned with, even though they look fucking stupid. Going back to the gore for a minute, which there's plenty of gore in this show, one of the other things that drew my interest with the show prior to being requested was the massive amount of censorship the show had to undergo airing in Japan. Because if you don't know, Japan and the rest of the world are not as accepting of violence as we do in the West. We're pretty much backwards. Asian and European countries are a little bit more lax when it comes to certain profanity and mainly sexual content, while we here love violence and hate sex and naughty words. The censorship in Terra Formars is completely crippling to the experience of the show. Here I am trying to see the brutality these bugs are trying to inflict on these characters, but oh no, a black dot. It is really bad, but it's not the worst kind of censorship in anime. I think the worst is like that shitty light streak that covers the entirety of the screen, like in a show like Blood Sea, which that show uncensored is pretty entertaining. The characters and writing is hot garbage, but has some very funny unironic deaths in that show. Adding more surprises to this show, the animation was actually pretty good. It wasn't like this incredible game-changing, mind-blowing piece of Japanese animation, but I thought from a studio where I don't know anything about them and are not that old, did a really good job. And they really did do great translating these characters, especially the roaches, into anime form. Terra Formars only lasted for one season, but sadly without a season 2 to continue from the original source material. Oh wait, there was a season 2? Revenge? What happened? Why is it so shitty looking now? What's up with these colors? They barely even look the same. They look even stupider. Revenge is fucking shit. Don't even bother. The drastic change in the art style really does bother me and just looks so unappealing. Apparently the show undergoes some sort of issue with the writing compared to the original manga as well, so I'd rather continue reading there. It's a pretty weird change because Linden Films is still working on it, but apparently this other studio, TYO, never heard of them, came aboard and this happens. Oh well. It looks like shit. It doesn't really matter. Just read the manga after the first season of Terra Formars. The last thing of Terra Formars I urge people to go and find is the Terra Formars live action movie. Think about this. These creatures already look stupid in both manga and anime form, so imagine them being translated into a live action film. Amazing. And this movie is just chock full of shit like this. It isn't good, but it is very entertaining. My favorite character in the movie is this guy. Well, that was a fun and interesting show to be suggested to watch. I'm gonna go watch a bullfrog eat a bunch of rodents and bugs to make myself feel better after watching this. But before then, if you want to win a review of your own, please check out my Patreon page, where $1 nets you a chance at winning a review of a cartoon or anime of your own. Thanks for watching, and make sure to crush every cockroach within your nearby radius.